Oh, he said we're on.
All right. Hey, everybody. So, everybody online, welcome to Just Muse Podcast. And everybody in the room, thanks for coming. I am here with Tiffany Benson, my co-host for tonight. Tiffany?
Oh gosh, everybody who knows me, they know me. No, people who don't know me, Tiffany, and I am the founder of Restore Parental Rights in Education. So I am co-hosting this event tonight, and I appreciate everybody who came out.
Yes, thank you all so much.
So our lineup of speakers is going to start with Nikki Ianchap. She is our Moms for Liberty West Valley chapter leader, and she is going to update us on Title IX, some things that are going on in the Peoria district. So without further ado, we can welcome up Nikki.
Nikki.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Nikki Ianchap. I am a mom in the Peoria Unified School District, and I'm also representing Moms for Liberty here in Maricopa County. We have a West Side chapter that just launched in July. And for those of you who are not familiar with Moms for Liberty is dedicated to fighting for the survival of America by unifying, educating, and empowering parents to defend their parental rights at all levels of government. The update on Title IX, that is how I learned about Moms for Liberty and became involved. If you're not aware, Moms for Liberty was part of a lawsuit that was filed against the Department of Education challenging the Biden administration's rewrite of Title IX. And they were granted a preliminary injunction that prohibits the Department of Ed from enforcing these changes in the states of the lawsuit and also schools attended by the children of members of Moms for Liberty. So if you are at a school and want to provide protection for your child, you can join Moms for Liberty. You just join at the national website, momsforliberty.org, become a member. After you become a member, you'll go in and manage your profile where you'll add your child's school. And then at the next opportunity where the judge requests for a list of schools from Moms for Liberty, they'll present those to the judge. They don't know exactly when that will occur. So if you haven't done it yet and you want to do it, I recommend that you sign up right away and get that taken care of. Then if you are interested in getting involved at the local level here in Maricopa County, you can join our chapter. And to do that, you would just need to contact me and give me your information. We're in a little bit of transition with Maricopa County because Maricopa County is huge compared to most counties. We have 58 school districts. So they're trying to figure out the logistics of how to manage that many school districts. So forgive us for a little bit. If you do go to their website and you try to join Maricopa County, it's not going to show up on the list. Hopefully you'll know somebody here that can contact me and I can get the information from you and get you signed up. There's no time limit right now, again, on when you can join. So right now the lawsuit covers future members. So even if you're not a member now, but you join later, your child's school will be protected. So if you're concerned about it, I urge you to sign up for that right away. We don't know how long that's going to last. And I'll just put a little plug for our chapter. We have 20 members. We meet on Zoom the third Monday of each month. And right now we're focusing really heavily on helping candidates with their school board races. We've done some endorsements, some door knocking. There's quite a bit of material on the website for candidates to help you in your campaign, lots of information and trainings that you can access. And I think that's it. Was that all I was supposed to cover?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Nikki.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to have to push this closer.
So Moms for Liberty, I don't know if there's anybody that hasn't heard of that organization. I think it's a really good organization. They are frontline defending children. So definitely want to make sure you can get involved with that. So
Absolutely.
shall we introduce our next
Yes,
speaker?
we shall.
Okay.
I'm so excited.
So drum roll, just pretend. Drum roll. Okay, so our next speaker, all right, is coming to us from Maricopa County, okay?
Yes.
Shelly Boggs is who we have that's going to take over
the Watson seat.
Yes.
I'm going to be
Yes.
kind tonight. Okay.
Yes.
Steve Watson. He will be going home November 5th. But what we need is for people to cast their vote in favor of the Republican candidate that we do
Yes.
have, that is stepping up to defend the children, and then also give us some good appointments to our school board.
Yes, we need those so bad.
So, but without further ado, we will have Shelley Boggs come and speak to us for a few moments.
Oh, wow. Okay. I put it close. Oh, all right. Too close. I'll hold it. Oh my gosh. Everybody's really excited and happy about what's going on in the school districts, right? Yes. So exciting. I'm not very happy about it either, which is why I decided to run for this position. Actually, the Peoria school board appointment is what solidified the fact that I was coming in and going to take over this seat and start doing what's right for our school districts. The schools are just failing our kids at every single turn, and we are in dire need of a culture change. And it starts with our school boards. And we hear about all of these people who are running for all of these other offices. Obviously we have to hold our legislators and we have to hold those seats. Those are important. But everything starts with education. Everything starts with education. I listen to all of the issues that everybody talks about, what they're going to fix when they get elected, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, and if we properly educated these students as they grew and became leaders, future leaders, we wouldn't have all this mess. So it's school boards are important, and I know so many of our school board moms in here, and they just tug at my heart because I know what they do, I know what they go through, and to be called all the names we get called, we're fighting to protect our girls, and we get called MAGA extremists. We ask for information about curriculum, and we get called MAGA extremists. Like, we're just parents. Most of the moms that I met it was during COVID. They didn't even know what was going on. Schools were shut down and everybody was trying to figure it out. And luckily we started some good parent groups and started some really great connections and became friends. And these moms who once were not political at all, just trusted that they were sending their kids to a school district, teaching their kids, found out that that's not the case. And then they just ask questions and get demonized for it. We are domestic terrorists. I mean, it's just constant. And we have to have people out in the community to defend us because it gets brutal. And we know what we're fighting for. We know we aren't what they call us, but it does get very tiring. So I'm hopeful, especially, with the districts, everybody, we've got Peoria and Deer Valley and what other districts? Dysart, Washington. So the community has got to get on board and help us fight for our kids. It is what it is. That's what we're fighting for. Currently, right now, I think there was over 80 school board elections that were canceled. So there's vacancies coming right out of the gate. And I can tell you right now, I know my opponent. She sits on the same school board that I'm on. And she's trying to sound very moderate, and it is absolutely not. You guys know Janine Castine, correct? Most of you? So those two are pretty tight. They're pretty good friends. And that just tells you the direction that our school board appointments will go. And it will not be in favor for students. It will not be in favor of teachers. And it will not be in favor of parents. And that's unacceptable. And if we're going to work to build these relationships with the teachers and the parents back up, we can't have people like that who just come in as administrators and continue the same status quo that we are dealing with over and over. The Democrats have had a stronghold on education for how many years, Diane? 80? 200? And it's declining. We're 50th in the nation now. Like Arizona's 50th. Like it's gotten progressively worse. And we are the ones who can stop this and make the course correction. And I just, what I worry about is the down ballot votes. I was told in the primary that 70,000 Republicans did not vote down ballot and just left things blank. We cannot let that happen again. So those of you who are out door knocking and chasing ballots, doing whatever it is that you're doing to get voters to vote, you have to tell them they have got to vote down ballot. Don't stop, because you guys know as well as I know, school boards are the change. We are the ones that make the change. I am on a school board in my 6th year. We're still uncovering stuff that's been going on with the former superintendent that we got rid of 6 years ago. I mean, it's the things that these people have gotten away with without any question. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. It's our tax dollars they're using, and our kids are being failed. And the teachers, good teachers, our real teachers, are not staying. They're trying to do their best to get around, the political ideology that's being shoved on them, put on the kids' backs. They're trying to stay, but they're going to go if we cannot get in there and help them and get them some proper professional development and some support from these administrators who don't support them. And all we're going to get is more activists in the classroom. And that's unacceptable. We can't do that. So what I'm asking for you guys is to make sure when you are out in your community, talk about your school boards. We have to talk about all the things, but we can't let people forget about school boards. They are so, so very important. And when I get into this position, because I'm going to win, I've already cleaned up an entire district in the East Valley, and it oversees 14 school districts. And I mean, the corruption that was in there, and I can't even tell you. We shrunk our administration cost down to 10%, and we were able to give our teachers a 40% raise. We hold on to our teachers. We take care of them. We back them in the discipline in the classroom. It matters when you have a board that helps guide us and have a good superintendent that gets it. And the school board have that power. We have that power to make that change. So I've done that. I've brought in, we have resources. I'll have everything available for these school board members once we get them elected to be able to bring real education resources to these school districts without political ideology. No politics, none. We don't want right. We don't want left. Kids can't even read. They're shoving DEI down their necks. They don't even know they can't even spell equity and inclusion. Like that, it's just unacceptable until they can read and write proficiently. They don't need any of this extra. It just doesn't, it needs to go away. And I'll have all those resources. I have them. We do it in my district. And it is possible. I know a few superintendents who are just waiting to get their boards flipped so that they can get out of that. Because we do have some decent superintendents out there who are being guided by, these school board members who are just totally political ideology driven from the left. And it's just got to change. The kids have to be priority. And we get to do that, board members. So my name is Shelly Boggs, running for Maricopa County School Superintendent. And I need your help to get our school board members elected so that we can do this together, because it's not a one-man job. I can't go in there and just change everything. It is a team effort, and I need my school board moms and dads to be elected so we can fix this for our kids, so we can have a future that doesn't allow these kids to kneel for the national anthem. They need to know how our country was built, and we are the last best hope, and they need to understand that. So That's it? We're good?
You can sit down for the Q&A portion if you
yeah,
want
if you
to.
want to.
Sit up there 'cause we
We didn't have that. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Anyway, thanks you
So
guys.
one thing, one thing that I wanted to hone in on that what Shelley said is that a vote for a school board member is not just a vote for a school board member. Because they are governing the district, but you have to also think about who you're appointing is going to have some bit of control or say into who's in the classrooms, who the administrators are, who the superintendent is, whether or not parents are involved, policy, etc. So think about everything that is connected to a school board member when you vote for them. Don't vote based on whether or not you like someone. Heaven help me. We have this thing on our side where a person has to be nice. And I understand we do want kindness. We want the character. We'll talk about character issues. But if we have someone who is willing to step up and take all the hits for your kids, somebody who's willing to step up and be called a racist, be called a bigot. By the way, if anybody is ever called a racist, I will do a photo op with you. And then people will know that that's not the case. But sincerely, people who are taking those kinds of hits, right? Because not everybody, look, this room's not full. We had 80+ school board races that were canceled. Not everybody is stepping up to do this. So we just want to make sure that we are banding together behind the people who've made it through the primary and they still want to do this thing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, no, absolutely, because that's it. I mean, I've seen it with Heather and Dawn and, you know, all of these candidates who are standing up. And I've also seen people cave to it. So we don't want that. I want somebody that's going to fight for my kids as hard as I will.
Yeah.
So that's why we're all in this room.
Yeah.
Is for that reason. So
next
Yeah.
speaker is coming to us from Dysart Unified. Okay.
I'm trying to be like that. So
Yes, hashtag. We like Dysart. Yes. Don Densmore. Dysart is like our model for conservatism and putting students and families
yeah.
first. So welcome, Dawn.
Thank you. I don't normally get that kind of introduction. Thank you. As they said, my name is Dawn Densmore. I'm the governing board president for Dysart Unified School District. I am in my 6th year. To kind of give you a little bit of a history, I ran 6 years ago, well, 5.5 years ago, when during the Red for Ed situation. I was the only candidate in running in my district that did not support all of the Red for Ed, the tactics of the Red for Ed and the walkout from school. And I was a write-in candidate and won. I won my last election just about 1.5 years ago. And looking back, I was in the same situation that Heather Brooks is in now for about 3 of those years. And it was absolute hell until we got a conservative majority on our board. My story is very similar to Heather's. I was able to stick it out through all of the absolute hell with some interesting staff members that have since resigned. I want to talk a little bit about what we were able to accomplish with the conservative board. When Miguel Cardona and Mayorkas, they were all calling us domestic terrorists, and parents going to school board meetings to domestic terrorists. We actually left the National School Board Association, who they were colluding with. We left the Arizona School Board Association within a few weeks of that. We were also able to successfully get an SRO in every single school, even our K through 4s. So it's not been just isolated to high schools and middle schools. It is in every single school. In addition to that, we take school safety a little bit differently in Dysart, where we're really focused on physical safety. We're not focused on the emotional supports in our district. We believe that's up to the parents. And we empower parents to do that on their own time. If they want to, have a mental health appointment, they can pull their kid out of school just like any other appointment. If you have a broken arm and you need to go see a specialist, your parent has to take you out of school for that. We're not a medical facility, whether that's physical health or mental health. We draw the line at that. We know that we can't have safe school, or we can't have good academics in an unsafe environment. That's why our school resource officers are very important. We take advantage of every single grant opportunity through the state. Not all, but many of our school resource officers are provided through the Arizona Department of Education, their school safety grant. I know that Tiffany wanted me to talk a little bit about the bond. Dysart also has a bond this year. And I will say this, when discussing whether or not we would form a committee to determine whether or not Dysart would have a bond election, there were a lot of prerequisites for me as a board member that I wanted to ensure were done properly, as far as having an actual open bond committee that's appointed by the governing board and not the superintendent. There is a difference. Committees that are actually formed by the governing board, they are held to open meeting law. We live streamed every single meeting. We considered a bond. We also considered an override. And when I say we, I mean the community. These were people that actually volunteered to be on this committee. There were a few staff members, but mostly community members. Myself as a board member, I attended each one, but I was not part of the official committee, but I was just an observer. Meeting minutes were taken from every single meeting that are all available on our website. The meetings were all live streamed, all available on YouTube. If anybody in the community wanted to go back and see what the decision process was to get to that bond, and what was included, what was taken out, what was added in at the end, all of it is public information, which is a beautiful thing. I think that is incredibly important. A lot of school districts are not doing that. When you look at the pamphlets that come out, the Dysart pamphlet is very transparent. It tells you exactly how many buses we're going to purchase. All of the HVAC systems that we're going to replace, which are just a few and not every single school. But you take another district that might be very intentionally vague. And from, just my observation, Peoria is one of those. It's not something that if I were a board member in that district, I would support. But knowing that we are doing everything within Dysart to be transparent, accountable, we're not having wasteful spending on things that are not academically based. And we also haven't had a successful bond for over 20 years. We've got exponential growth in our north side near the Asante area, which is kind of bordering up right against Peoria. We've got huge growth out there. We have a city council, former city councils, that have been out of control with the growth. It's been completely irresponsible, and the school district has really suffered for it. So that's why I am supporting our bond. As a conservative, I know that it's not typical to support a bond or maybe even override, depending on where you're at. But I think that the conservative decisions that we've made as a board, the cleanup, the fiscal responsibility, all of it, when you take it into consideration, I really think that the students and the staff deserve this. I don't say that lightly. I disagree with a lot of bonds that are on this upcoming election for different school districts. But Dysart is not one of them. That's just my personal opinion. And I just want to say that, what Shelley was saying, we definitely need to elect Shelley. for Maricopa County Superintendent, it's incredibly important that we have somebody that's going to make responsible appointments to vacancies on school boards across the county. Also want to shout out that every single candidate in this room, I absolutely endorse, I support. I've spoken to a majority of them. I feel like we're pretty much all on the same page as far as, again, fiscal responsibility and school safety. Those are, I think, a big priority for all of us in this room. That's it. Thank you.
Was there not a third one? There's
Thank
three
you,
mics.
Dawn.
There's 3 mics.
I know the other one's not working.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's like cutting in and out.
Oh
So-
well.
Well, I get the pleasure of introducing our next speaker because she's also my friend and she's amazing. Honestly, when I first met her, I was just like, she is the reason why I came to the board meetings and started talking and stepping up to the podium because I was like, wow, there's somebody that's also fighting for my kids. So I'm like, okay, I can come up and I can talk at the podium too, even though I worked at the district at the time. Yeah. So our next speaker, Heather Rex from Peoria.
All right. Yes, I am Heather Rooks. I was listening to the first couple of speakers, Shelley Boggs, Nikki, and Dawn, and I just really wanted to talk about. I was actually on Mia's podcast a couple days ago, and she wanted to know where I began, and I think that is important to remind myself so that I don't get lost because there is so much outside noise. I've had threats in the mail. I've had targets on my children. I've had targets in my marriage. And you really have to tune all of that out to go back to the beginning of why you took a stand. I took a stand in 2020, me and my husband, when COVID hit. One of my children was autistic. And the school had forced him to wear a mask the first day of school without my knowledge. I had gotten a school nurse email, a doctor's note, just thinking as a mom, like that, I didn't know what to do. He was horrified from it. He was upset, he was angry. And when you're dealing with children that have autism, it is detrimental when you put them through those kinds of things. So that is where I began my journey, fighting for my kid. I didn't know what I was doing. I met Devin Updegraft Day, who was my running mate in 2022 election for Peoria School Board. And I met Michelle Dillard. She was the president for Purple for Parents. Those were the first two that I met that were willing to help me, something they didn't know, and my child, with nothing expected in return. Nothing, not a dime, no money, nothing. They invited me to stand up for my kid. We kept him home for 2 months, fighting through going through the top to the superintendent, to the board members. And that is how I met Beverly Pingerelli. She was on the Peoria School Board, and she's also our state rep. And she took the time as a non-paid school board member to help fight for my kid, for his voice. And I met Diana Douglas through Beverly Pingerelli, who helped me understand what governing board was and what their goals were. And I attended my first board meeting with my husband, with Devin and Michelle by my side, and they helped me fight for my kid to get back in school mask free, which we did end up winning. They put a shield around his desk, and we actually glued a face shield to a popsicle stick so that he could just hold it without touching his face. Because again, kids that are autistic, the sensory breakdown is just horrific for them. And so my second board meeting I attended with Devin, I met Christina and Becky Smith, who has been with us for 4 years now. And we were there, and it was an elective course that the 5 board members were voting on in the Peoria Unified School District that was teaching about identity, and it was oppressed and privileged. And one of the resources that would be used, they presented during this board meeting, would be the 1619 project. The curriculum department, when they presented it, said that they didn't have any curriculum drafted up. They thought they had to approve the course description before drafting the curriculum. And I remember Judy Doan, who was also on the board of Conservative, and Beverly Pingarelli. They both said they would not vote for something that they didn't have written in front of them. They couldn't support that. I think that is pivotal as a governing board member, because I have really noticed on my journey the things that they have tried to sneak by board members and the parents and the community. I've really seen it. It's definitely been an eye-opening experience. Turns out, after that board meeting, it was voted through by the 3 Democrats. One of them was David Sandoval. He's running again this year. Turns out, Diane Douglas helped me learn about public record requests. And public record requests allow you, the people, to request documents and emails of what our school districts are doing with our taxpayer dollars and our children. And it came out to be that there was a curriculum department email chain before that board meeting, months before, where they did have the curriculum. It was a 15-page syllabus draft, and they kept it from the parents and the community. That was huge. We spoke about it. We were on James T. radio show, James T. Harris, did my first newspaper article. I had never done anything like this before, ever. And I was shocked as a parent. I was disappointed in the district that I grew up in. I graduated from Sunrise Mountain High School, and I just felt so let down as a parent for what they did. So from that, me and Devin started attending the school board meetings. We started showing up, started paying attention, talking to parents. And because we kept speaking up at the board meetings, I had parents reaching out to me, asking for help. How do I get my kid mask free because they are autistic as well? How do I not allow certain things to be taught to my child? We really dug into the Arizona Parental Bill of Rights. We started going to the Capitol. Becky and Christina and Wendy and everybody started going to the Capitol to speak on education bills. Beverly was there. We had never done this before as moms, but we were tired of seeing and hearing from parents of their rights being broken. Their children were not learning, they were not reading, they were not doing math. I even then had, I remember it was the teacher that reached out to me. She was terrified of her name getting out there. She did not want her name spoken. And I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why she would be so afraid to give me this information, but I have learned now why she is afraid. She had told me that at a staff meeting at one of the schools that she worked at, they were asked to write down on a card, all the staff there, the teachers, to write down on a card, when did they realize they were white? She threw the card away in the trash. And she let me speak about it at a board meeting as the mom at the podium. That is so disappointing to hear for our teachers that are needing support, and that is how you view them in the classroom. So from that experience of hearing from so many teachers, staff members, bus drivers, parents, me and Devin decided to run because we were like, we have to do something. And I remember Peter Pingarelli, who passed away this year, is Beverly Pingarelli's husband. He told me and Devin what I'm going to tell everybody here today. You only need to count to 3. Those were his words. You count to 3, we can fix these issues in our schools. We can make it better for our children in these schools, in Arizona, and across the country. You count to 3 out of 5, you've got it. We ran for school board, me and Devin. and I've never ran any type of election, like Shelley Boggs said, I've never been political, I've never done this before. And I got 42,000 votes, the most in Peoria school board history election. So that says something. People were tired of this. They wanted change. They wanted better for their children and in their communities. When I was, going through this process, I did have one of our previous board members, who's no longer here. He wanted to support me as governing board clerk through the district. And I was shocked by it. I said, why would you want to support me as a governing board clerk? And he said, I will never forget what he said. He said, you make the administration uncomfortable. That's huge. They shouldn't be comfortable up there. They should be on their toes when they are bringing things to the governing board to be approved, because they should be. It's our children that are on the line. And that is what I have continued to stay on. I'm not here to be a yes man. I'm here to make sure that there is accountability and transparency in our schools with our children. And that is, it doesn't matter how many tweets you do. It doesn't matter how many letters you send in the mailbox to try to threaten my family or our marriage, me and my husband's marriage. It doesn't matter if you talk about my children. It doesn't matter if you talk about other parents' children. They're going to keep coming. They're going to keep coming to the board meetings. They're going to keep holding accountability in this district. I wanted to come up here and help out Tiffany and Mia here, because you have to really realize what is at stake right now. I'm telling you, I have never done this before, and the things I have seen and heard in this district are there good times? Are there good moments? Yes, absolutely. I always say it at the board meetings when we are recognizing students in the boardroom, and I tell them, you are the best part of this position, because this is a non-paid position. You are the best part. You are the reason why I wanted to run for the school board. But I can tell you right now, it is horrifying. And if you do not help walk doors for your candidates, if you don't help tell people who to vote for, I honestly don't know what's going to happen to these kids and these parents in their future. And I'm absolutely right. We need Shelley Boggs. We need Shelley Boggs. Maricopa County Superintendent, we don't realize, is they make the appointments for vacant seats on our school board. They ultimately decide if we will have a liberal on that school board or if we will have a conservative. I can't emphasize what has happened in Peoria because of Steve Watson's decision. So thank you so much for me and Tiffany for hosting this today. And thank you all for coming and wanting to put your kids' education first. And thank you to Mia's cousin over here for everything that he's doing for us parents. Thank you guys.
All right, it's my turn now. I'm just gonna do a little 5-minute speech, and then we're gonna have the Q&A come up. But one thing that to kind of brings everybody's attention, maybe you thought about this, maybe you haven't, but before we started seeing things like CRT and all those things show up in K through 12, this was always on the collegiate level. I don't know if people were aware of that, but in colleges, they've always studied things through a critical lens, because coming through law school and things like that, those were the classes. Okay, well, by the time you go to college, you're paying into that, you're an adult. If you want to sit and listen to people say that you're bad because of the color of your skin, I guess you're paying for that. But think about the fact that I guess maybe that wasn't enough for some people who have an agenda. And what happened is now all of that has seeped down into the K through 12, the sexualization and all of that. And say what you will about the LGBTQ+++++ movement. If you're an adult, whatever, okay? I don't want people to live the wrong kind of lifestyle, but everybody has their freedom, their beliefs. But when it comes to children, this is not something that we can just lay down and allow it to continue, to happen. There's a concerted effort for children to get on board with things that they don't even understand. Their innocence is just being robbed from them by a teacher or a counselor or an administrator who's coming to them and handing them a rainbow book. Okay, that may seem innocent, but the thing is that it starts a conversation. And that's where we end up with the sexual assaults that are happening in school districts, those things that are really horrible. By the time something hits the headlines, there's multiple victims who never found their voice. The adults in their life never believed them. And the representation, right? So the Department of Education released a statistic that said 1 in 10 or 1 in 12 students will experience sexual misconduct from someone who works in a public school district by the time they graduate. I did the math. And out of 50 million, if you're saying 12% of 50 million, that's 6 million kids year over year before they graduate. And that number, as I just said, only represents those who spoke up, who the people in their life believed them and helped them and got them to the place where they could confront their abuser or take control of their situation and not, live as a victim or a survivor without saying anything. So I just wanted to hone in on that. If all of the Q&A panel, those are going to be our candidates if you want to start making your way on stage. We have 8 seats, so if all 8 of you are here, you will fit. But I just want people to think through your decision because you're going to head to the ballot box starting, I want to say early voting opens Wednesday. So don't wait until the last minute on November 5th. We know that there are shenanigans that always happen. Vote early, vote right. Right. You guys can come on up, make your way up, and just keep the children in mind. Whatever decision that you're making, keep children and families in mind. So, but now we're going to have our Q&A portion, and I think that this was the everyone's highly interested in.
This is the only mic that's working.
What you said, Mike?
This is the only one that's working, so go ahead and oh, the way now calling Janelle to the front.
Okay, why don't we start with Susan? Just do like a quick 60 seconds, who you are, who your district is.
Okay, I'm Susan Linder. I'm running for one of the 3 seats in Paradise Valley Unified School District. Is that all you want from us?
Yeah, you want to say?
Well, I'm actually from the field. I'm a retired teacher, counselor, principal, and college instructor, and my passion is achievement and curriculum.
Hi, my name is Sophia Maffei. I'm actually from South Phoenix, so this was a nice hour drive for me. I'm running for one of the 3 seats for Roosevelt. I'm actually running on a slate, and it's true. It's 3. You need 3. So that's why I'm running on a slate for Roosevelt. I'm born and raised in South Phoenix. Actually went to school in Roosevelt. Both my parents were teachers, so they retired from Roosevelt. So we were a Roosevelt family. I had studied to be a teacher myself, just like my mom and my dad, and I taught in Roosevelt when I first began teaching. And now, years later, I'm tired of seeing the same happen in Roosevelt, and that's why I'm running for Roosevelt. It's time for these kids to get a better education.
My name is Karen Nancy, and I'm running for the Washington Elementary School District. And I was also born and raised in the district and graduated from the district. And I went to ASU, got my teaching degree, and went back and taught in some of the toughest schools in the district. My kids went to school in the district, and I too am just horrified by what's going on in the district. And so I stepped up.
My name is Mary Jane Sarwa, and I run in the Dysart School Board. There's 3 vacancies, and Ms. Vera, Denise, and I are running. And I just believe education is very important for children, and I don't want them to be indoctrinated by ideologies that their parents would find offensive. And that's what I'm running.
I'm Denise Destish, and I'm also running for Dysart Unified School District with Mary Jane and Steve. I was a Navy brat, 14 schools in 12 years, and education is the key for anybody's future. And our country has let them down, our school boards and our districts, and make sure gets fixed.
Hello, Jeff Stovey, running for Peoria Unified School District, and for the last 20 years, especially I've been in law enforcement. Safety is my passion. And I got involved about 4 years ago with the onset of COVID, when my kids are being sequestered and quarantined without any due process. And coming from a legal background, you need due process when you see somebody's rights or take away their ability to petition their government. And so I started speaking up at board meetings and got more involved. Apparently I need a photograph of you because I was termed a racist at the very but yes, and as a Jew, and also too, I mean, this is the 1 year anniversary of the attacks in Israel. And so as a Jew and as someone who has family in Israel, in law enforcement, safety is on my mind everywhere I look. And we need to increase our safety. And just like Don was saying earlier, an escrow on every campus is not an unreasonable request, and that's what we need.
Hi, I'm Kim Fisher. I'm running for the Deer Valley Unified School District, plus Slate as well, the conservative Slate. I wasn't really sure how to introduce myself, but I have got to say I'm so grateful for the speakers that came for me. Because you feel so alone. And I'm listening as Heather is recounting my life from my first term. I listen as I think about our district. We don't have this. In fact, they're not allowed. They're pushed to the sides. They're no longer in the front. They're not allowed to speak. I still am a white Christian nationalist, even though you're my friend and you've been on everything with me. I'm not even white. I'm Hispanic, so I mean, but you're called everything in the book. And then you start beginning to wonder, no, am I reading that? You start to think they paint a picture of you that they want the public to think. And they put it out there, and that's who you are. We have to have freedom. And lately, the thing is, and the superintendents aren't afraid to say, I have my freedom. Well, here who runs, I have my freedom. And right now, in our district, they need one, and they will have their three. We need all three. And that's why we're really trying hard to make sure that we can change that. And that three is not to torture anybody. It's not to, everybody says, to fire somebody, or it's not. It's in fact, in my first term, I refused to fire our superintendent because they couldn't prove he had done anything wrong. Was he perfect? No. But he had not done anything wrong. But that's not what that means. That means that we are going to stand up for our parents' rights. And I think that's what's lost. What is it that is the school board member's job? And if you ask the superintendent, their job is to support the superintendent and administration and to promote the school district. Our job is not to promote the school district. Our job is to represent our community within the school district. And sometimes that means standing up and fighting for the kids, no matter what name they call you. So that is why this is so important. And I just want to thank the people that came before, because I came here tonight with, I don't do this anymore. You're just so alone. That's what I know. We've all been through it. We've all been trapped. Sometimes you're trapped and people claim to be with you, you know.
Yeah. Thank you.
All of that. Yeah. Janelle Bowles from Peoria School Board. For those of you who don't know, there are 3 openings in Peoria. Simple math says this: we have 2 far-right conservatives. It's a bipartisan race, so it's like throwing 6 balls in the air and you're going to catch 2. We only need 2 to turn over the board, and otherwise we'll park on the vote. Where do I start? I don't even know. I started running the school board. I worked in the district for 9 years and worked a lot with special ed and behavior kids. I think I was a behavior kid, that's why I know so much. And I love the challenge and I love everything about that. But wow, I've seen some really just injustices in that God in heaven. They are taking, just one example, children who was mentioned, I think Heather mentioned her son with autism, that is a communication disorder. So I can't even fully wrap my brain around that. But imagine being in a world that you can't even differentiate social cues. Not at all. Some of them. Yet, perverted agenda is not helping them understand that. They are saying, oh, it's just because you're a boy, you should be a girl. When I first heard that, I was like, no way, that was about 4 years ago at Right to Life rally. And they're doing it, they're doing it, they're doing it. And it infuriates me because what an injustice to do that to a child. One of the main reasons that I am running is because of that and because of our foster care. Mainly, there are many of us even in the room that have kids and grandkids. Just because I'm running for public school board does not mean I support public school or education until they bring it up. The problem with that is many in the room also are paying double, paying for your local school, but yet you have to take your child over here. And I know we have ESA and all that. I'm very familiar with that, and I support all of that. But it's not okay. We're not producing children that can read. California's legit building prisons based off their scores. That's wrong. I won't go down the rabbit hole, but our foster care system, mainly because they will be the poster children of the perverted or the perverted agenda. We are the worst in the nation if you don't know that. We've been that way at least 2 decades, and I'm being very slim on that. I think it's been like 3 or 4. The worst in how we treat our most at-risk children. They're still sleeping in offices. Now we've got rainbow and, unicorn houses that are putting them in perverted houses. But they just want a family. So I could see them very, very much, many of my students, leaning toward that. Why wouldn't you? That's the cool thing to do before you figure it out. You're mutilated, you can't have children, you're so screwed up, your health is down the toilet and you're 20, 18, 17, sometimes 16 years old. It's not okay. And since I ran, I found in the campaign trail, it's their fight, it's their resilience that I'm after. It's their, yes, I feel bad for them, of course I do, I want to mother all of them, but it's the resilience, if steered in the right direction, that I've seen my own students, now they're adults. We need it. We need it. My children need it. My grandchildren need it. We need people to stand beside our children that have that resilience. So since I've campaigned, I found out that our mayor is a product of foster. And I went and go down all the things that he's accomplished. Really, it's amazing. It's unbelievable. And then supports this when he doesn't have to. And the left is very upset. I say that because I was actually in one of their meetings and they didn't know I was there. And they were asking for $5 donations. So, and then I just recently found out that our new chief of police practiced. So that's up to something. That was not my doings. I just know he's in my future and try to listen as best I can. So I will stand with what I typically end with, both Bowles and Toby, because there's some people you take to lunch and there's other people you take to war. Thank you.
Okay. That other 4 people ask my mic. All right, we have a shortage of mics. So the first 4 people, I'm going to share my mic and then she'll share.
Yes.
Okay. All right, this first question came from someone in the Peoria Unified School District. Jefferson, if you want to. It says, it's 2 parts. What do you recommend parents do to guarantee that schools are staying transparent? And how can we get more transparency in Peoria?
Well, I think a lot of that's going to start with public records requests, streamlining that I have to find out what's even going on. We need a baseline to find out what we don't know. And once we understand where we are starting from, then putting in good policies and practices in place to empower parents to be able to know what's going on in their schools and curriculum. I know at Peoria, for example, we're going back to a standards-based curriculum with Dr. Hernandez, according to what state standards. We're going away from that resource base, which would allow a teacher to use any resource that they felt was capable of teaching the lesson. Well, the problem is it's not regulated. There's really no telling what is going on in that classroom. going back to a standards-based curriculum, I think, is also going to help with transparency. But we really need to find out where we stand initially, and then we can move from there.
No.
I think you need to start attending board meetings. Our speaker, I forget her name, she was excellent. Listen to what she did. That's how we need to get parents involved, but the first step is to go to board meetings, and that's how I got.
Janelle wanted to add something.
It's super simple. Like, how many of you in here are parents? How many of you guys know that when you have a toddler and it's real quiet, you know something's going on? Well, they're blatantly obvious when they hide something.
Yeah.
Like they just don't, because it's in nature, right? When you're over the top transparent, it's blatantly obvious you're not hiding something. Dig, and even board members don't even know that you're about to present something that they didn't even know was part of the agenda because you slid that under. That is not transparency. So you can say it, it's psychology, psychological projection. You can say it all day long, but you are not transparent.
All right, so we have our next question. And this one was, came in for Karen from Washington Elementary School District. How will you support all parents, including those who disagree with conservative values? And it says, in parentheses, especially liberals. Okay, and then this, you can speak directly into the mic, please. Thank you.
So my district is a very blue district, so there will be a lot of parents that logically do not agree with me. But the parent is in charge of their child. And I like what someone said, like, we're not a hospital. We don't, we're not doing the emotional health care. We're keeping them physically safe. And that's the thing they left up to the parents. I also strongly believe in diversity of thought. We cannot all sit in a room and think the exact same way. There's got to be other ideas. And right now, the board that I'm running for has no diversity of thought at all. Even if myself and the other conservatives win, we do not have the three, so their voices will be heard. And finally, I'm there for kids. I'm doing this for the children because the children aren't learning in our district. We have a school that has 4% passing math. And I just get goosebumps when I hear that. And so we need a board that's solely focused on academics. And that really shouldn't be political, to be honest. But just let's teach them how to read and do math so they can do something in life. So yeah, all of that, like differing opinions and differing thoughts, and the check belongs to the parent. It's not the school's job. Every vote I will make with the attitude of what is best for kids. Every single vote. It's not what's best for parents. It's not what's best for teachers. It's what's best for kids. And that's exactly when I think about those adorable faces that I had in my classroom when I taught in that district. And every decision I make is going to be what's best for them. And the parents can handle what the parents can handle.
Thank you. You ready for the next question?
Yeah.
Okay, so this question is for anyone, but I feel like I want Paradise Valley to probably speak to this. So obviously, Paradise Valley, you're a conservative stronghold, but how will you stand strong with conservative voting, even if the district or liberal media tells you your decision is wrong? And I'm thinking of when there was a vote getting rid of a mental health grant, and that kind of gave some backlash in Paradise Valley. But I'm sorry, not Paradise Valley. I'm so sorry, Geyser. I said Geyser the whole time.
Yeah. Okay. So we're blessed because Dysart is conservative. We're hoping that we can carry that ticket on and continue to keep growing in a conservative way. The way that it was handled, parents, name calling, everything else. At the end of the day, we have a responsibility to students, the taxpayers, the parents, right? They have a right to send their child to a school regardless. To a public school, they should be able to, because they're paying those taxes. Right? So if somebody thinks that it's a school's responsibility to manage their child's mental health, then they can call us names till the cows come home. At the end of the day, we answer to the taxpayers, the parents, and to God. That's all I got to say.
Well, I know Don took some criticism of the issue, and I think it was because the federal money was ending, they could remove that. She stood strong as far as should just be I just believe in teaching the academics and not getting into the social emotional learning, you know. I'm just glad that she stood strong.
All right. So next question. I'm going to give this one to Tatiana Roosevelt. What can or will you do to stop bullying in your district?
That is a huge issue in my district. I've met so many families that they just feel like they have no way of solving this issue. One of the main things that I've noticed that I've gotten complaints from the parents with that is the fact that they don't feel like they have communication with the administrators when it comes to the situation. So they reach out to the administrators, and the administrators are not reacting. They're not getting any results. And I think that's where we need to start. We need to have better communication amongst the parents, the administrators, because at the end of the day, a lot of this problem spans from the parents. Are the parents involved in this situation? Is the district communicating and making sure that people that should be aware of the situation are made aware of it? So I think that's one thing. Another thing is we have really bad discipline. This is an issue from even when I was a kid. In Roosevelt. In fact, I'm going to share this with you. This is the truth. I went to one of the most difficult schools that no longer is open in Roosevelt. It's called Palmdale. And I was there until I was in 3rd grade. And then my parents moved to a different part of South Phoenix that actually made us go to one of the Tempe schools, which was actually Guadalupe, Frank Elementary. And so when we went to Frank, it was actually a huge upgrade. And I remember the first day, I was like, why isn't anyone giving a bloody fight? That was how it was growing up in Roosevelt. You know, and I know many children that from my age, they had similar. So discipline's been an issue for a very long time. As a teacher, I saw that we were not consistent with disciplinary plans. Teachers, we didn't have good disciplinary plans. They were not realistic. Even when I was teaching, I remember I had children that were interrupting classrooms. And, you know, I'd send them to the office because we finally got to the point. It's like, okay, this is too much. You are interrupting the class too much. We cannot focus. So I would send them to the office. The child would come skipping back with a lollipop. That was not a disciplinary plan, right? And that, as a teacher, you are exhausted. You are exhausted. So bullying, we need to have good disciplinary plans that are, you know, and there's plenty out there. But we need to find one that you train your staff, they follow it, the administrators are following it, there's great communication from the staff, the teachers, and more importantly, from the staff and the parents, so that we can take care of this issue. I think that's how we can really make a difference.
Janelle wanted to speak to that question.
Yeah. There's a reason why I was the behavior specialist. I was the one that was called in to say, hey, we got a bullying issue in 3rd grade. Go in and talk to these kids and teach them anti-bullying, right? So you're gonna be the kids tonight, because I like the interaction. But you have to be honest, just be honest. We're not gonna video you or nothing, but. So I used to do this, I used to say, okay, I said, let's be honest, who in the room has ever bullied? Oh, come on. Right? And then I would say, and they were like, well, why do you have your hand up? I didn't tell them. Then I'd say, how many of you have ever been bullied? And then I would say, and most of you probably know, the power is not getting the teacher or administration or rabbit hole. The power is in the bystanders. Meaning there's 2 people usually bullying or being the bully. Bullying or being the target. But the bystanders is where the power is. You teach them what to do in that situation, and they will stand up for, I used to call it pegging order because I come from a farm. I still have a hood of like a chicken that I bring into the kindergarten classes. It's a real thing. They legit will pick them to death if they're new, and it's a real thing. But we've gotten so far from the real issue, and that is, let's teach each other we're valuable, no matter what you believe or this or that. But we can't do that if we're saying, oh, let's have you stand up and tell everybody why you are a white supremacist. Really? Because the last time I checked, that's racist. You're teaching racism with racism. By racism, it doesn't even make logical sense. So we've all bullied. We've all been bullied. If we were being honest, maybe some more than others. I know that there's a person in my high school that told me years later, you bullied me. I'm like, how could I bully you? I went to your house and bus. So it's truly it is in the eye of the beholder. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, and I'm not downplaying that. My kids went through that themselves. And I'm not saying it's real. I'm God in heaven, run for school board, and you'll find out what bullying really is. But it's what we're teaching the bystanders. And that's so powerful on both ends.
One thing, yes. The one thing though, as board members, you have to have the policy. You know, we went through this last year in our district, and they ended up with a policy that didn't protect our kids, protected our administration. Right. And they went round and round about what define bullying. Did they poke you once, twice? Was it 10 times? It's like, how many times exactly? And how many, I mean, do they have to have a knockdown, drag out, and black eye for it to be bullying? Or, you know, it's going round and round, and at the end of the day, we have the worst policy I think I've ever seen that does not protect a single child, but protects administration from the lawsuit. And so as board members, we have to make sure that our policies are aimed towards the right people, which is our children, and protecting our children. And so that's got to be crucial for any board member, anybody who's elected, is that your policy has to empower the appropriate things that will help that child. The policy that will not allow them to just be sent back to the class with a lollipop, because I knew that from several teachers as well.
Yes. Susan wants to speak on that.
I want to add just a little different perspective. The school board has to have the appropriate policy, but discipline in the school lies in the hands of the principal. The principal has to set the tone. He has to support the teachers who want to discipline, and that's how you do it. When I was a principal, we would have people come around and do assemblies in all of the 14 elementary schools, and they always said to me, you have the best behaved children, because all I had to do as the principal was stand up in the assembly. You have to set that tone, and then you have to back the teachers. And there were times I even had a student call their parent at work and tell them what they did. But they hated that, but it lies in the hands of the principal and the principal backing the teachers.
Great. I guess I will add to that, as the founder of Restore Parental Rights, that if we really want well-behaved children in schools, then what happens around the dinner table and what happens between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. when they come back to you, that matters as well.
Yes.
This next question is specifically for Kim in Deer Valley, but anybody can speak to this. The question is, when contentious issues come up during board meetings, how will you keep a respectful dialogue in order to be productive?
Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. Now, the reality is, when it comes down to it, you don't really have control. You can control sometimes where you're at, and sometimes you can't. I've been in meetings where I have individuals who are yelling at me, and my response, no, we're not doing that. We're talking, no, we're gonna stop. Or I've had in the case where they want to silence you. They'll still pre-set up a meeting. Okay, at this meeting, we will not speak to anything that I don't like. If we do, I will silence it. And the part of the problem is they'll even go so far as to turn off your mic. Anybody who watches our board meetings, they know that at least the last 4 or so, they can watch live on mine going the other direction. The reason being, and I didn't even know it was occurring, a parent is the one that told me that they don't like what you were saying, they turned your mic off. And I was like, what? No, they didn't. They couldn't do that. I went back, I listened to the meeting, sure as heck, you can see it up there,
They did change.
you heard nothing. They turned off the mic. I think you'll do what you can to maintain it. There's been times where someone said, you should go back and listen to that meeting. And I've gone back and listened, I thought, I'm proud of that. I actually kept my composure. I was being yelled at, I was being name called, I was being whatever. And I was able to then say, no. And sometimes it is, you have to be able to say no, because that is your job. That is your job as a board member, is to say, no, I'm sorry, we're not gonna do that. Sometimes, and it has happened in my board meeting before, is, I'm sorry, Superintendent, I'm speaking. You're not going to do that. You're not going to overrun the board. You're not going to overrun it. And for the last 3 years, he has overrun the board. That's almost 4 years. It didn't happen before that because we have a board majority and they would hold him accountable. And that's what it comes down to, is being able to have that accountability. If you're afraid to say no, we're not doing that. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. This is the way that is. And we've had board members, one of our board members who's also running is, we've had her storm out of board meetings, fling open doors and put holes in walls. That's not what they put out. They put out when you made her mad. So you were the problem, not her. So you may be able to, you won't always be able to. So you have to think about what you're doing at the end of the day. What is the purpose of this? Is it really worth it? And sometimes there's meetings where I'll just go, no, it's not worth it. And I'll just say, this is why I'm doing it this way. And beyond that, it's not worth it. And then there's other meetings where I'm willing to sit there and have that conversation. Because we have to represent our public.
Did anybody else want to speak to professionalism on board?
No. All right, next question, and this is for anybody, so whoever wants to speak to this. What will you do to foster a safe learning environment for all students? Anybody want to?
Now, of course, safety can go a lot of different directions, but
So I do believe, and I agree wholeheartedly with Don who spoke earlier, that as a school, public school, physical safety is first. And if you can get physical safety, then learning can happen. And having good policies in place is part of that, but also the training. And fortunately, we have a new safety director in Peoria Unified. I'm excited to meet with them and work with them to make the policies and the training go along with it. Now, also in Peoria and in other school districts as well, they are also partnering with the Real-Time Operations Center, the Real-Time Crime Centers in their local jurisdictions. That's a direct tie into the police department. So not only do you have safety and physical security on campus, but you have access to fire, EMS, law enforcement, additional resources, even behavioral health vans, the mobile units that go out and actually respond to your scene. So there is a lot of connectivity with there, and it's about the partnerships. So if you have safe schools physically, and as a site leader, you're doing what you can to make that physical site safe, and then you leverage your partnerships, that's going to, by far and away, be a lot better than some of the other alternatives that we're seeing in our school districts right now.
Right.
So, my daughter, when she was in high school, there was a situation. And it is a school board and the state's responsibility to ensure your children can go into a school and be safe, protected, and get the education they need. That has kind of gone by the wayside a lot, but once we get back in, once forcing an academic excellence and ensuring that the children do have a safe environment, it's our responsibilities, the teachers, the parents, the administrative, and the school board, to hold students accountable if they are not. If they're bullying or they're threatening, if everybody's working together, someone needs to be held accountable. And it's that child if they're doing and harming somebody. And that's something that we need to really focus on, as well as just the safety resources and that. It's how they're being taught, and teachers and parents, everybody should be working as a community to make sure our children are loving and respectful to everybody.
You know, I think one of the biggest things with making a school environment safe is having your parents in there. That's what it really ultimately comes down to. If you don't have your parents in there, I love what you said, what happens between 5 and 8 a.m. You know, I saw at a school event I had gone to, it was just different ideas that were throwing out. They're saying, you don't want to suspend kids, you don't want to throw them out because then we can't do something. So they had a suggestion of suspending kids into school with their parents, where the parent has to go in. Now, I don't think that would work. I really don't, because our parents would they go nuts on that. But you have to have your parents in there. I'm watching my own district over the last several years, how the district itself, and I'm not talking boardroom, I'm not even talking in our meetings or what have you, our district is divided. We have a set of parents who are on all the committees. They are the ones that are listened to. They're the ones that will happily beat up anybody who's running that they don't agree with, or the other parents. In the last election, we had an individual who she didn't sign up to run. And I don't know if it's the reason she didn't sign up to run. She was going to run, and her work was called and said, they literally tried to dox her. If she runs, this is what she's doing, this is what she's saying and saying. So when you have your parents divided into groups in your communities, there's a serious problem, and you need to start bringing them into your boardroom, not necessarily for a board meeting, but to have study sessions. We used to have them in my first term, where we had our community come in. We taught them about what the board does, what the school does. This is your responsibility, this is our responsibility. This is how we can partner. This is our purpose. This is your purpose. These are your kids. We're just here to help you. We're just here to, and if we don't have those parents, there will never be a safe environment for our kids. Because no one will, and I know we all love our kids, we all say we love them. I know that. But no one will love the child as much as mom and dad do. And for the ones that don't have mom and dad, we do have our foster kids, I guarantee there are school staff that do love them a lot. So, but that has to be that connection.
Okay. And I definitely agree, we need student resource officers, and we need administrators that support the teachers with the discipline, but we also need really good quality teachers in the classroom, because they can stop a lot of behavior problems if they're a good quality teacher. And that's why we need to, well, I personally don't think we should support every teacher. We need to just support our good quality teachers, because they make the biggest difference in a classroom.
I don't know that this would apply to middle or high schools, but recently my grandson goes to Chaparral High School in Scottsdale, and he started telling me, Grandma, on all of these Telegram channels or whatever they are, people are starting to make threats about coming in and shooting at the school. And this has been going on in several of the districts around here. And I actually told a board member that was going on. And apparently the administration knew it, as well as the school board, as well as Dr. Hensel. And then they had a lockdown because somebody called the school and said there's a gunman in there holding 2 people hostages. The rest is history. There was not that. But had the administration, the board members, taken the seriousness of those comments and addressed that with the school through the announcements or what have you, getting the police involved, the resource officer didn't even know this. So it's really important, particularly at that age level of the high school, that you pay attention to what the students are saying.
Okay, interesting enough, that is actually the next question. So let's stay in this vein. It says, this person asked, what's your viewpoint on the number of school shootings we're seeing? And then how do you plan to minimize any threats that may happen in your district? So we can piggyback on that if someone wanted to provide a comment.
I remember where this was, about recently. I remember I was a behavior specialist, so those kids that got kids out of the classroom, they came to me. And I just see all different directions in relationships, I guess I'll say it like that. But holding parents accountable is a real thing. I have never been in support of having in-school suspension. It does nothing but babysit If parents, if you don't have detention after school or make it somewhat uncomfortable, it's not gonna change. So I'll leave that alone. But somebody just recently, another state, I think, there was threats like what was described. And Jeff probably could speak to this better than myself, but we're pulling resources away from real crime to go to these threats that kids are being idiots and not being parented or monitored on the internet. I don't know, but that, I believe it was actually in the Midwest, like in the last month, but they actually are trying to make it that kid is on the 10 o'clock news, get a picture, and make that a very serious thing that you're screwing around with, well, let's make this threat when it's not really a threat, and separate the two. And I'm all for that. I'm not really for making the parent responsible yet. I think there needs to be some things in place before that, but yeah, we need to hold them accountable for some of these threats that are not really threats, if that makes sense. There's a lot of them. Even recently, and probably every one of these districts, to be honest. And it's a waste of resources, a waste of time. If most families, if their child face was on the news or crime, we don't really, who reads the newspaper? They're so liberal, it's ridiculous. Anyway, yeah, I think that holding parents, they're dependents for a reason. You want your parental rights, and I can speak to this because I have adult kids, mine's here. And they're amazing kids, but yeah, we parented, we spanked, I'll let her speak to that, but we parented, we did, we were involved. And that's, at some point that has to happen, because I'll end with this. We have a parental rights bill right now. It's called a parental right bill for a reason. And it states, so please tell all your parents, if maybe you're one of them, if someone, anyone in the school, speaks to your child in instruction, in a group, in a whatever, it doesn't matter, in any sexual content, they have, the parent, a right to sue that person. I've heard every excuse, parent doesn't have money. We have resources, because Moms for Liberty, thank God, stepped on the scene. We have resources. Parents have to step up. At some point, they have to step up, and we will support them. We're working on that.
As far as the threats go, this is where I talk about the partnerships, because a lot of the threats happen from outside of our areas and jurisdictions. But for example, certain police departments have a zero tolerance now. If you're a student and you live in that city or that town, and you make a threat, you disrupt an educational facility, they will book you. Unfortunately, through weak policies and administrators, we have school districts that don't want to press charges. And there are institutions that say, well, we'll deal with this internally. And unfortunately, some of those, they're now, repeat offenders now. But in certain areas where there is a zero tolerance policy, you've seen the threats go down dramatically. Now, I'm not saying, we need to scarlet letter these kids or put them on the news, but a night in JCC, as well as, 500 hours of community service will definitely teach a lesson. But, from that regard, there is a decrease in that. We always have to.
The time is now 7:55. Real Vista closes in 5 minutes. Real Vista Rection closes in 5 minutes.
I'll try to make this quick. I was going to say, this is a compilation of issues, right? Once we started bringing in the social agenda into the schools, the anxiety in the children increased. Right, so then you have that issue going on. I don't necessarily think it's a parent's fault alone. It's compilative. These children have such anxiety, they're scared, they're being exposed to things they shouldn't be, and they don't know how to handle it. And maybe calling in a threat or threatening, and maybe that's not really a threat. Maybe it's actually a call for help. We don't know. So I think it's important that when we remove the social agendas and we focus on academic excellence, you're going to see a lot of reducing of the anxiety in the kids, and hopefully that'll take care of some of these issues.
I just want to add to that anxiety. It's not always anxiety. Sometimes it is a matter of, we got to remember these kids are young. They're not grown. They don't sometimes even know better. Sometimes they do. But when we end up with kids who think this is funny, and that's part of the problem, is you gotta keep in mind, they are just kids sometimes. And so they, let's do it, let's take the great call. You know, we did it when we were young, but it was then something stupid like, you'd call somebody with the last name McDonald and order fries. It was funny, you'd laugh because that was their last name. The kids now, they're still young, but now they think, well, let's see, we can get out of class, we can all do this, we can all do that. They need to really understand that magnitude. So we need to, that's for those big ones. But then there's a lot of things that we can do to protect our kids, to protect our funds. You know, on my first term with another board member, we thought, you know, are our schools really safe? We decided to see if we could drive. We literally drove onto a high school campus, off the high school campus, onto the back of the junior high next to it, around, at any point in time, we could have gotten out of our farm. Nobody would have been any the wiser that we were on that campus. We thought, well, what about other schools? We drove through schools, and we went ahead and we filmed what we were doing. We didn't put it out public, but when we did, we gave it to our superintendent. So you need to be aware that this is what we're facing. So there's real, and then there's what we need to change. So we need to make sure that our kids take this serious. And I know our district is really working hard to do that. That is one thing Deer Valley is doing really good. Every time there's something, we stress to the kids, hey, this is not a joke, this is not funny. You will be expelled, if not go to jail. This is serious, we're not playing a game. So that's, you know, something we have to do as well.
So my district is one of those districts that, you know, because of political differences, some people will say that it's, you know, the school to prison pipeline. You know, that it's our district, that they're one of them that had that argument for a while. But realistically, all of us want to have our children safe at school. And I think what's really important also to add to what Ms. Larry shared is to make sure that our schools are no longer soft targets. You know, if we are in need of SROs, we need to get those grants so that we can be able to have SROs at every single campus to make sure our children are safe, because there have been instances where children, maybe they were thinking it was funny, they grabbed dad's gun and it's in their backpack. This child was not trying to come and shoot at the school, they just thought it was trying to bring them to school. That's another thing is our SROs. Growing up, when we did have SROs, you know, I didn't see that as a threat to me, or I was gonna go to jail or anything with racism. There was nothing like that whatsoever, because the SRO was there to protect us and to guard us and educate us. And so we had wonderful lessons on staying away from drugs, saying no to drugs. I think we also need to have lessons on guns, and that these are not toys. But so many of these kids go home, they play video games. You know, or they see the next shooter that's getting all this notoriety, and they don't understand that's not something to be proud of. Or if they know an uncle that's been to jail and is now coming out of jail, this is just a lifestyle that they see being promoted within their own community. So we need to have really good conversations with them and educate them about that if they do certain decisions, they have certain consequences. So they look forward to better consequences and better decision making in the futures.
I did want to kind of push back just a slight bit on what Janelle said. There were two cases. There's a guy named Ethan Crumbley. This happened in November 2021 at Oxford High School. And then we know the kid Holt Gray in Appalachia that recently just happened in September. In both of those situations, the parents have been charged with crimes. And in that situation, in both situations, the parents had gifted the children with guns. And not a big deal if you live on a farm or if you live on land or if you're teaching your child to shoot, no big deal. I'm pro 2A, no big deal. But I think there was some parenting that was lacking in that situation, and there were mental health issues that were ignored. So I do think that there are situations where parents do need to be held accountable, because otherwise, I mean, nothing will change. You know, I mean, I think we're all in agreement up here with that. That was a theme, I think, tonight, was how parents can be more involved. And even the topic of safety, literally, I think every person would have had a parent that thought was in their mind, if we want a safer environment, then the parents will have to be involved. All right, so we're gonna go over just slightly 8, even though they're closed. We have the room until for about 10 more minutes. There's one more question. Anybody can speak to this.
I just wanted to add a quick comment. Actions speak louder than words. You can talk to kids about, don't do this, don't do that, stay away from guns, but actions speak louder than words. I had a kindergartner one time that told another kindergartner in school he was going to take his gun, just bring his gun to school and shoot him. I found out about it. He came to my office and I suspended him for the rest of the day. I made the parent come and get him. That's what makes kids pay attention, not words, actions.
And that's what makes parents pay attention too.
Yes.
If I got to off work and all that.
Super quick, I promise.
Super quick.
I just watched a documentary on Columbine shooting. It was very eye-opening, because I like to, torture myself a bit. But it was from the standpoint of the parents whose child shot at the school. My God in heaven, both parents were social workers. They were both involved in his life. So when we say those things, I think we all have a different idea of involved in their life. He was influenced, he was hurt, he was bullied, I get it. I grew up on a farm, we all had guns. We all have guns in our homes. They're locked up, you respect it. You're not afraid of it, but you respect it, just like working with power tools. Guns don't shoot people, people shoot people.
Exactly. Okay, this is the last question for anyone. Herb, the answer to your question to 60 seconds. Please
Set a
do.
timer.
I know, I'll be the timer. Okay. This is an important question because standing in the boardroom in Peoria, well, lots of boardrooms, if you know me, I'm in lots of boardrooms. But over the last several months, what I have seen, we onboarded a new superintendent, and we were hopeful that this individual was going to give a hard no to administrators and teachers where it was needed. But he almost immediately started using the DEI language, and it was just such disappointment. A lot of us in Peoria were disappointed because we thought that this superintendent was gonna deliver. I'm not writing him off yet, obviously we're just getting started, but this last question is speaking to how will you stand up to unjust or corrupt administrations? Because let's be honest, the administrative state on all levels of government is a huge, huge problem. Unelected people are gonna lobby you for what they want, even though you're not only responsible to them, you've got constituents.
Rio Vista is now closed. The time is 8 p.m. Rio Vista is closed. Please head to the exits. Thank you very much.
We're headed to the exit momentarily. Okay, so anybody that wants to speak to how you will deal with the corrupt administrations?
I'm gonna speak to Peoria, because I was there
60 seconds.
9 years. Don't give them enough rope to hang themselves. Keep them close. One is closer. But in Peoria particularly, I do not agree, never have. Superintendents should not be up there with the board. They're not one of us. That screams, he's one of us. Now, I actually happen to like this superintendent, and I know that I might get some backlash a little, not really, because we're pretty transparent in our group, but the social worker thing, I kind of did understand why he was like, oh my God, don't pull the rug out from underneath. I do, and my team knows this. I said after that meeting, I said, if the other Republican that was appointed would have voted right in May, we wouldn't have the tail wagging the dog. I have no problem telling the superintendent, sit down, you work for us and our constituents. Whether they're parents or teachers, we support the constituents.
Nice. Thank you, Heather.
I can tell you, this is a greater issue than any of us. I used to think that you could employ me, you can, if you have your three. If you don't have your three, you can't. And it can get serious. I will tell you that in our district, the tail is wagging the dog, has been wagging the dog for a while. To the extent that they will silence anyone who dares to stand against them. And so you have to have your truth, or you cannot. The only thing you can do when you don't is to put the truth out there and provide it. Just provide the true evidence. This is what it is. People will believe it or they won't. Sometimes the problem, well, in our case, we have a spouse that will silence you, even if you put out the truth, it spins it. But the best you can do, if you really can't, is go ahead and put the facts out there, make sure they're facts.
Time.
And then let the community deal with it.
Go.
quickly, actions speak louder than words. If I'm on a board and there's somebody in the cabinet and I don't like what they're doing, I'm going to them. And she's right, 3 works, but I'm not going to stop just because there's only 2.
All right.
Our district has been having a problem that since 2007, our enrollment keeps going down, 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 down. All the schools are getting more and more empty. And that's because people have been tired of the corruption and they've been tired of not having good education. And so I know that as I get into the district, that's what I'm going to be working tirelessly to help improve so that our administrators are actually being held accountable and that they are performing and that families can now have trust in the district once more, and we can hopefully get them back to our district.
I think sometimes we need to differentiate corruption versus you're just not measuring up to what your job is. Yes, your job is part of your job, and that's the route we need to hold them to. And so there's several times, even as a parent advocate in Peoria, I've met with the superintendent and I've met with other members of the board and the cabinet to try to find resolutions as far as, you're missing the mark here. And, for example, we had one of our teachers vaping suspected marijuana in class, in between classes. The district thought it was, marijuana's legal now, what's the big deal? And it's an HR issue. So I think there's a difference between corruption and they just don't know. And also they're just not living up to their job duties. And so we were able to mediate that. Again, actions going directly to the people and just holding them accountable.
If I win, I will not have 30. I might just be by myself, and I will just expose everything I can and get the truth out there to my community best that I can. I feel like that's going to be my role for the next 4 years.
I
You will
haven't
need
heard
lots of support.
about too much administrative problems in Dysart, so I'm not real knowledgeable about that. But if I would hear about it, I would stand up to them and expose it.
Right.
Oh.
Okay, they're taking us out. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you for answering our question, and thank you to everybody who came. We appreciate you all coming out.
Yes.
Carving out this time for us.
We're leaving.
All right.
Say
Have a good night.
goodbye to our online audience.
Bye-bye. See you next time.